The Gauntlet, a challenge of beating all 14 game modes of a map without reusing a single hero or monkey. So if I use a Dart Monkey or a Geraldo on easy, I can't use either of them for the rest of the challenge, similar to an Extreme Odyssey. Now, I carefully planned out what I'd use for each difficulty, with the main things being to spread out the lead popping power and camo detection. With that in mind, we started on easy. I wanted to get Brickle out of the way because we're only allowed one of each monkey, so sub or boat spamming along with stalling wouldn't work too great. So I paired her with a middle path boomer and we let her run. Easy peasy. Next up was primary only, which we only needed Quincy and an ice monkey as nothing gets past his bow. Just kidding. It was absolutely infuriating watching him just doink frozen balloons while new ones shot through. But once we got our embrittlement, that wasn't a problem, and I started dumping money into Quincy to make him even better, which was more than enough to pop the mob. Deflation was next, and I had the genius idea of letting Churchill solo it. Probably not the easiest route, but it would save us monkeys for the harder game modes like half cash. Luckily, the starting cash was enough to get Churchill to level 7, so he had camo detection and a mounted turret that allows him to pop all balloon type. So I just had to save his ability for when we were overrun with either zebras, blacks, rainbows, or ceramic balloons, which turned out to be a lot of the time, and actually caused us to lose quite a bit of lives. But even though we leaked more than expected, he hit level 10 for round 60, letting us use both abilities to take down the dreaded BFB. Now that the easies are done, we're on to the medium difficulties. Standard was first, where I brought in Striker Jones. I wanted to use him for an easier one as he's best with mortar and bomb spams, but once again we're only allowed one of each, so medium was the obvious choice. I paired him with a sniper and opted for a 0.32 bouncing bullet for some crowd control, and managed to get a supply drop by the round 40 mob. Sure, this completely sacrificed any single target damage that I'd hoped to have, but what's the worst that could happen? It leaks? Yeah, right. All it took was several abilities and just about the whole track to pop the mob. Piece of cake. After that, I got an elite sniper and used all of the money it generated to upgrade Striker to level 15 for round 60, giving us that super low cooldown concussive shell. And just like that, we were on to military only. Luckily, we could start with Gwen here and work towards a heli pilot. Both these guys will have lead popping power and a way to pop camos, so we should be good, right? Right, this one was pretty seamless as we got all the way to a 420 Apache dart ship, so I probably should have gone with weaker towers. I especially felt this because the next one up is my Kryptonite Apocalypse. Because I knew I'd struggle, I brought in the engineer, a mortar, and the ultimate trump card Geraldo. Probably overkill, but I was determined to win. I started with the NG, got some turrets down, placed Geraldo, and started leaking. Huh. And then leads and camos came, and we didn't have enough money to deal with that either. So I sold the engineer, got down to mortar, popped the leads, sold the mortar, got Bob the builder back down, and gave him some camo detection. Not the most elegant solution, but it's allowed in Extreme Odysseys, so if Ninja Kiwi allows it, I allow it. Time to get the mortar down, and we made a Regrow Farm. Well, I knew this one would suck, but then I got an idea. An idea so dirty that it just might work. What if I started with Geraldo and placed so many shooty turrets down that he became a makeshift engineer? And then I could get a mortar down early for those leads that I know are coming. Easy. Now I just need to get some more turrets down, and I decided to completely cut the engineer out of this run solely out of spite from the last attempt. In fact, to prove Jerry's superiority, I bought more shooty turrets than the engineer could have ever placed. Then I got the decamo option for the mortar, and I was ready for the hard part of Apocalypse. The time had come to absolutely load the field with fire minions, pickles, bunnies, and the occasional blade trap when I got scared. Which was all the time. It was really weird placing the fire minions so often because of how fast the rounds were going, but out of nowhere, we beat the mode. Hashtag Geraldo OP, hashtag engineers are bad. The last medium difficulty is reverse, and I brought in a Dora and a Spactory. Though it made for some long rounds, we absolutely crushed everything that didn't involve purples. Even with that though, some spalls at the end of track and we should be fine. So I got a 320 Spactory, saved up until I could afford another one, sacrificed it, and replaced it in between rounds. With these extra levels, reverse is going down. And I made another Regrow Farm. Alright, time to start again. I did just about the same thing, but this time I got all the way to a 420 spiked mines, which destroyed the Regrow Farm that I made once again. Then I just saved up 15k, sacrificed the spines, and got down a new one. Probably unnecessary, but fun nonetheless. This made Adora hit level 10 early, and I used her ability every time I was in trouble, even when it was worthless. And it carried us all the way to victory. Hard mode is next, and we ran the legendary Izili Glue tack strat. I had one simple plan: get an overdrive for general damage, a glue storm for the memes, and use Azili for her totem and level 10 mob hex. Though it did help that the glue storm and strike popped camo purples. Everything went according to plan, and we were doing so good that we could get a glue storm before the tack zone just for fun. But that was more than enough damage for everything sent our way, especially since we put them in the middle of cubism. Magic Monkeys only and double HP mobs were both up next, and both were easy from start to finish. For MMO, we ran Oben, Ninja, and a Super Monkey, and crushed with a Bloon Jitsu and Savitar. As for double HP mobs, we had Pat Fusty, a stronger Stimulant Alchemist, and a Spectre. I really like running Pat and double HP mobs because it slaps and hugs by you tons of time, but now we're on to the big boy. Half cash. I saved the big three just for this: the Dart Monkey, the Submarine, and Benjamin. I knew that the free dart and cheap sub could help me get Ben down comfortably. It was just if we had enough damage to finish the run with these guys. If needed, I still had that engineer to play with, but it would be funny if we never used them. Anyway, I went for a sharpshooter and a ballistic missile with the goal of getting a crossbow master. But my dreams were cut very short as we didn't even make it to round 50. So what could we change? Well, I did the same start, but this time audibled to a reactor to help out the sharpshooter. This worked much better, and we were even chugging through the later 50s, but I leaked 16 balloons when I only had 15 lives left. So we had to start over once again. I was pretty confident this strat would work as we were only a few $1,000s away from a crossbow master, but I just couldn't get it. So right before giving up and working with an engineer, I tried one last thing. We got a Juggernaut on the straightaway and paired it with a 204 submarine. Using the straight line for the jug and Ben's vision for the sub, we were able to save all the way up to an Ultra Juggernaut in round 55, which was more than enough damage to carry us to the 70s. It was on round 72 where I sold the Ultra Juggernaut and replaced it with a crossbow master, which was really all we needed. But I pushed this over the top by siphoning the round 80 ZOMG down to a BFB to end my over hour-long suffering of this difficulty. 3 heroes and 8 monkeys left to take down the final 3 difficulties. The pressure was on. For ABR, I started with Sada. I saved her for as long as possible, and I think this is where she'll be most useful. That or half cash, but we did that already. Anyway, I started with Sada and quickly placed down a 203 cluster bomb to help out with the clumped balloon. Then it was clear we needed more camo detection, so I got a 020 village and then upgraded our bomb shooter to a 204 recursive cluster. We were set to crush the mid game with this, but because we had to get to round 80 without any more towers, I decided to go for a primary expertise to get that global ballista. We got that around 55, which gave me the confidence to win, but we made so much money that I got a recursive cluster to a bomb blitz. Don't judge me for that crosspath. I didn't think we'd be upgrading it to a tier 5. Anyway, ABR was done and we just had 2 more to go. Impoppable. Everyone's favorite difficulty to win with oodles of money was the obvious choice for the farm to be in. Accompanying it would be the Druid, Buccaneer, and ETN. I purposely chose a few towers that would benefit from his camo detection, as that was one of the biggest losing conditions at this point. Luckily, ETN hits level 8 pretty fast, so it is not a worry for this run. But we started pretty quick by going from a 000 Druid all the way to ETN, and then I made the Druid a 130 as that destroys the early game, and we started farming like player 3, but we were limited to 1 farm. Because of this, I figured a banana bank would be the way to go, as we'd get a large chunk of change every few rounds. After that, I got a destroyer to handle the 40s and 50s while we farmed our way to a beautiful Spirit of the Forest. Ever since his damage buff, I've been enjoying playing with him, and this was no exception. The obvious next tower was the Carrier Flagship, but after that, we had a very difficult choice. We could upgrade ETN to level 20, or we could save up for our Monkeynomics for absolutely no reason. Obviously, I chose the latter and made the $120,000 for the fun of it. There was nothing else really to focus on other than the occasional ETN ability, but I was feeling pretty safe at least through round 97. 98 was the first one I was scared of, but I had to save ETN's level 10 ability for round 99 just in case the reinforced DDTs were too much. Luckily, our large amounts of global damage was enough to whittle the ZOMGs down to nothing. Then I used ETN's UCAV on round 99 and exploded the Spirit of the Forest vines on the ZOMGs that came out of the bat. And there we go. Just Chimps remains. I planned from the get-go to do a modified 2TC for this, by having size it back up to make it more reliable. Because we weren't allowed to back out to home and try later rounds again, I had to limit the RNG to keep me sane. So I started with the classic Wildfire Wizard, which is where I learned not to get the intense magic upgrade right away if you plan on doing a 2TC. So the second attempt, I rushed the Wildfire and had absolutely no issues. Directly after that, I got down Psy, set them to strong, and placed down a Dartling Gunner because I was terrified of not getting it down before purple started showing up. After the Dartling, things got much easier. I made it a 2-2-0 and was able to get the wizard all the way to a Prince of Darkness on round 53. Right after that, I got the Dartling to a Plasma Accelerator and microed it to always pop Bloons inside the pod's radius and keep its graveyard full, as our only lost condition at this point was if its bank of Bloons runs dry. So I made our saving of 86k much easier with their stuns and global damage, which allowed us to get a Ray of Doom on round 94. From here, I just pointed that big red laser down the straightaway and had it carry me to the bat. But there was still one more monkey we had to place, the Lonely Engineer that was completely neglected due to Geraldo. So, since no monkeys left behind, I plopped him down during the final round and popped the remaining Bloons. Though this little guy had no pops, he was a valuable asset to the team and he earned us the sweet Glue Gunner Insta-Monkey. But with that, we beat every difficulty on Cubism without reusing a single hero or monkey.